What happens when the untouchable Floyd Mayweather meets the unstoppable Terence Crawford in their absolute primes? Tonight, we break down why many believe Bud might be the only man to solve the Mayweather puzzle.
Just hypothetically speaking, just looking at, two fighters, you got Floyd and you got Crawford in their prime. Who you picking?
Can we all give an opinion on that?
Yeah, you want to?
Yeah, I got an opinion on that too.
Coach Bernie doesn't hesitate when a matchup is put on the table. The moment Floyd and Crawford are mentioned in their primes, Bernie paints the picture. Floyd, whether it's the aggressive young pretty boy or the slick defensive money version, has the ability to systematically dismantle opponents. What Bernie is really pointing out here is Floyd's ability to switch gears depending on the version of himself he brought to the ring.
I'm listening to you, Rep.
Floyd versus a prime Mayweather. We can go pretty boy, we can go Money May versus Terence Crawford in his prime. Who we got?
I think Money Mayweather shut Crawford down.
Early career Floyd was ruthless, volume-driven, and willing to trade. Later, he became the defensive wizard, content to nullify his opponents. Bernie's breakdown captures how versatile Floyd was. But here's where Crawford enters the conversation. Crawford isn't just versatile, he's a shapeshifter inside the ropes. Unlike most fighters who evolve once in their careers, Crawford adapts within fights. He starts by reading opponents, then dissects them piece by piece. So while Bernie suggests Mayweather could chef Crawford down, what he really exposes is that Floyd would have to bring both versions of himself to keep up with Crawford. The problem? Crawford thrives when his opponents give him multiple looks. Against a fighter as cerebral as Crawford, even Floyd's adaptability could be stretched to its limit.
He would have bored him to sleep like you do these fighters.
Yeah.
He would have jabbed him, hooked him, sticking in the body. You know what I'm saying?
Bernie doubles down by talking about Floyd's mental games in the ring. His jabs, hooks, and body work weren't just about scoring points. They were about draining fighters mentally. By the middle rounds, opponents often looked defeated before a knockout was even on the table. But here's the catch. Crawford feeds on mental warfare.
And then when the fighters swing back, Floyd nowhere to be found. So mentally, they're draining.
Yeah.
And about the 6th or 7th round, that's when you start picking up, putting the combination together.
We've seen Crawford smile in the middle of exchanges, talk to his opponents while breaking them down, and switch stance just to frustrate them. He doesn't just survive the psychological aspect of boxing, he weaponizes. If Floyd's greatest advantage was frustrating fighters until they crumble, then Crawford is the anomaly. He doesn't crumble, he sharpens. Against Gamboa, Khan, Brook, Porter, every time Crawford was touched, he elevated. Bernie's own observation about Floyd mentally exhausting fighters inadvertently strengthens Crawford's case. Floyd could frustrate, but Crawford turns frustration into fire, and that's where Bud would thrive.
Like Floyd's career, like him coming up in the era that he came up in, he had all them champions that he was able to fight, and that's what led him to be so great.
Now Crawford himself weighs in. He acknowledges Floyd's greatness by pointing out his stacked resume. Floyd fought and beat more champions than anyone else of his era, and that sheer volume of elite opposition helped shape his career. What Crawford is doing here is not downplaying Mayweather's record. He's highlighting the environment that built it. But here's where the generational difference matters.
Because he fought the most champions, beat the most champions, got the most money for beating the most champions. So it's just like, man, he had this guy, back to back to fight, one after one.
Crawford, unlike Floyd, has dominated across 3 weight classes while taking on champions at their best. The way Bud phrases it shows respect for Floyd's path, but also hints at his own. Floyd beat champions back to back, but Crawford isn't just beating them, he's dismantling. Spence was supposed to be his toughest challenge, yet Crawford turned it into a one-sided clinic. That's what makes Crawford dangerous in a hypothetical prime matchup. He doesn't just survive eras stacked with talent, he redefines dominance within them.
Who's the best boxer, in your opinion, right now?
European.
No, world. Best fighter
World.
in the world, yeah.
I think it's Terence Crawford.
Many believe it's you. Many believe you're the best fighter.
No, I'm not
No?
the best fighter of the world. It's Terence Crawford.
Terence Crawford, number 1, yeah?
Yeah.
When Alexander Usyk, one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters today, names Crawford as the best in the world, it isn't just a compliment. It's an acknowledgement from one technical genius to another. Usyk knows what it takes to control distance, manipulate rhythm, and break opponents mentally.
Floyd reached with that right hand. You think he's gonna reach against one of the best back foot counter punches in the game? He gonna reach with that right hand against Crawford? He gonna get slept reaching with that backhand, the way he reaches with that. That level change backhand he throws to, no.
Bradley doesn't stop at the southpawing. He breaks down Floyd's tendency to reach with his right hand, a move that worked against most opponents but will be disastrous against a counterpuncher as sharp as Crawford. Bradley emphasizes Crawford's ability to punish over extensions, particularly with his longer reach, 75 inches compared to Floyd's 72. And while Floyd had incredible reflexes and speed, Bradley reminds us that Crawford has those too, on top of the reach advantage.
That pull jab he does too, that ain't gonna work. That is not gonna work. Floyd got a 72-inch reach. Yeah, he had quickness, fast reflexes. However, Crawford got all of that too. He got all of that too. And he got a 75-inch reach.
What Bradley is really saying is that Floyd's usual tricks, the pull counter, the jab to right hand rhythm, might fail against Bud because Crawford reads patterns and dismantles them. Floyd's opponents often made the mistake of chasing him. Crawford wouldn't chase. He'd bait, counter, and extend exchanges in ways Floyd hated. That reach difference, though seemingly minor, creates a new battle. 3 inches in boxing, when paired with elite timing, can mean landing first, landing cleaner, and landing with authority.
Crawford or Mayweather?
I think Crawford is better, bigger. Like he's actually he moved in weight class, and I would say Crawford is a better fight all around fighter.
When Shane Mosley, himself a Hall of Famer who shared the ring with Floyd Mayweather, gives his take, it carries weight. Mosley points to one of the most overlooked but crucial factors, size. He highlights Crawford's ability to move across divisions while staying dominant, something Floyd managed, but not to the same destructive degree.
Mayweather's really good too, though. You can knock him as well. He's very talented. It would have been a tough fight, but I think Crawford would have the edge over Mayweather because of the long arms and because he's bigger.
Mosley isn't dismissing Floyd's brilliance. He calls him very talented, but he stresses Crawford's longer reach and physical presence as the deciding factors. Why does this matter? Because Floyd built his legacy on controlling range and dictating the pace of fights. He mastered the art of making bigger men fight small. Against De La Hoya, Canelo, and Cotto, Floyd neutralized physical disadvantages through timing, defense, and ring IQ. But Crawford is different. He's not just bigger, he's smarter in how he uses his size. Crawford has proven he can stay sharp moving up, never losing speed or accuracy. Mosley suggests that those long arms wouldn't just keep Floyd at bay. They'd also allow Crawford to fight comfortably from both stances while forcing Floyd to fight at a range he didn't prefer. The edge Mosley gives Crawford isn't about raw power or intimidation. It's about the fusion of physical advantages with a boxing brain that knows how to apply them.
You know what I'm saying? That he would have kept him at bay. It would have been hard for Mayweather to counter, maybe. But Mayweather's definitely a technician. I mean, like Crawford said, Mayweather has his era, and Crawford, this is there.
Mosley takes his point further by talking about eras. He acknowledges Floyd as a pure technician, one of the cleanest defensive fighters ever, but argues that Crawford's style might translate even better across different generations. Why? Because Crawford fights like an old-school warrior, adaptable, mean, and comfortable in the trenches. He doesn't just win by outboxing. He wins by breaking fighters down.
I think both guys could fight in the era, but I think Crawford had a better, more tougher, would have a better time in different eras, like the old school era, because he's more of an old school fighter.
Mosley suggests Crawford would have been at home in earlier eras, where fighters often had to face multiple styles back-to-back, sometimes on short notice, and adapt quickly. This is critical because one of Floyd's greatest strengths was tailoring his career to maximize his advantages, fighting opponents at the right time, often catching them a step past their peak. Crawford doesn't seem to care about time. He's willing to fight champions when they're at their best, and he dominates them in brutal fashion. That willingness to engage across any era, to embrace the rugged side of boxing, is why Mosley leans toward Crawford. Against Floyd's technical brilliance, Crawford's willingness to fight in both the chess match and the dogfight gives him the advantage.
Well, also if we remember, Canelo at that time was a razor-thin decision. Floyd won, majority decision. C.J. Ross had it with what a lot of people had as a draw. And then the other two judges scored it for Floyd, of course. And that was a Floyd at the top of his game.
The interviewer brings up an important benchmark: Floyd's fight with Canelo Alvarez. At the time, Floyd was already in his mid-30s, while Canelo was only 23, still green in many ways. On paper, it was Floyd at his peak versus a young lion. But if you look deeper, Canelo was inexperienced in dealing with someone of Floyd's caliber, and though Floyd outclassed him, the fight was closer than many fans remember, even resulted in one judge controversially calling it a draw. This comparison matters matters because it shows the limits of Floyd's dominance.
Green, Canelo with very little experience, and he still took him, into deep waters. So
yeah, what was Canelo? What, 20-something? 20 what? 23, 25?
Yeah, he was. Very, very young in the game, obviously.
Very young. He had more fights than Floyd, and he lost.
Yeah, but
a man that was 30-something years old, 36.
He faced a version of Canelo who was still learning the ropes. It wasn't the one-sided schooling people often describe. Now imagine replacing that inexperienced Canelo with a fully realized Terence Crawford, a fighter with elite skill, patience, and finishing instinct. The interviewer's reminder highlights the reality that Floyd could be touched and tested. If Canelo, at 23, could make it competitive at moments, Crawford in his prime would not just make it competitive, he'd make it dangerous for Floyd.
But Floyd was clearly at the top of his career, and Canelo had fought a lot of people,
How are you at the top of your career in your prime? You ain't in your prime when you're at 36.
Jeff Mayweather, Floyd's uncle and former trainer, steps in with a critical clarification. Floyd was not in his physical prime against Canelo. At 36, he argues Floyd was past the natural athletic peak, which usually comes in the late 20s. Jeff's point is valid. Floyd was a master craftsman who extended his career by relying on his brain more than his body.
Did he lose? I mean,
your prime is in your 20s.
It's different for different people.
Yeah, okay. Well, for sure. And that's why Canelo is saying what he's saying.
But I mean, don't you? I mean,
want to make himself look like he did something great.
But this raises a fascinating counterpoint when applied to Crawford. Crawford is not just in his physical prime right now. He's combining it with the type of ring IQ Floyd had in his 30s. In other words, Crawford's timeline has aligned perfectly, body and brain firing at full power. What Jeff is essentially saying, perhaps unintentionally, is that prime matters, and Crawford's prime might simply be sharper and more dangerous than Floyd's. While Floyd's legacy is built on longevity and perfection, Crawford's is shaping up to be defined by peak dominance. And in a head-to-head, that sharper prime could tilt the scales in Crawford's favor.
I don't know. It's a close fight. It's things Floyd do better. It's things that Bud do better. But I'd rather not say, because I'm not going to just lie and just say nothing, and make up something just to... I got my opinion on, how the fights would go. And
trainer Breadman Edwards offers a more cautious take. He acknowledges that both men do certain things better than the other, and he avoids making a definitive pick. Instead, he urges fans to let Crawford enjoy his moment, pointing out how messy debates can get when legacies are compared in real time. This hesitation, though, says something powerful. If Floyd's greatness was so untouchable, there wouldn't be hesitation.
But I think we should just let the man enjoy his great moment. He's a great fighter. And I see a lot of immature stuff, and I don't like the way things is going with Floyd and Roy. They two guys that a lot of the younger guys...
Trainers and fighters would immediately say Floyd, no doubt. But the fact that respected voices like Breadman pause, reflect, and admit it's close shows how much Crawford has disrupted the conversation. Edwards' perspective also highlights the cultural layer. Floyd and Roy Jones Jr. taking shots at each other has soured how younger fighters see legends. Crawford, on the other hand, is carving his story without needing to attack the past. In that sense, Crawford represents a pure competitive spirit, less tied to narrative manipulation. That alone makes the case stronger for why fans and trainers are leaning toward Bud.
So when they taking shots at each other in the media because of the who's better and all that kind of stuff. So, I just want to see Bud enjoy his moment.
This final section ties the debate together with two distinct but important voices, Breadman and Showbiz Adult's Fred Beck. Breadman again calls for perspective, asking fans to avoid tearing down legacies. But Beck goes further, drawing a distinction between greater and better. Greater is about impact, longevity, and resume, categories where Floyd shines.
Why is Terence Bud Crawford greater than Floyd Mayweather? Or better than Floyd Mayweather? Greater is a little bit different. Greater is impact, resume, all that shit, but better. Terence Bud Crawford, after what he did last night, is better than Floyd Mayweather.
But better, as in head-to-head skill and danger in the ring, might belong to Crawford.
There is no way Floyd Mayweather would attempt to do that crazy shit. See, that's the insane Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvelous Marvin Hagler after being gone for 5 years type shit. Never being at middleweight, first fight at middleweight, being against Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Terence Bud Crawford, never been a middleweight shit. The most he's been is super welterweight, and he was only there once.
Beck argues Crawford's recent feats, like dominating Spence after moving up weight, are risks Floyd never took. He even compares it to Sugar Ray Leonard stepping up against Marvin Hagler, daring, audacious, and defiant. The point here is that greatness can be measured by numbers, but better is measured in risk and execution. Crawford may not have Floyd's resume yet, but he has shown a willingness to test himself in ways Floyd did, and that, in the eyes of Beck and many modern analysts, makes him the more dangerous prime fighter. This was Box-A-Hub, your hub for everything boxing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Who wins in their prime, Floyd or Crawford?